Is he asleep? Perfect. So just be quiet. I'll do your school with you here in just a minute. Yeah, go for it. You finish up what you have. I'll finish reading you the pages here in a minute. So just go ahead and go sit down and finish up that, and then I'll read it to you here in a little bit, okay? Do you ever feel like you're struggling managing your expectations and setting realistic goals as a work-at-home mom, and then you throw yourself into mom guilt? Well, we're diving into all of that today. Hey there, work-at-home moms. Thanks for joining me today at the Mom Desk Club. My name is Laurel, and all season we have been diving into all things work-at-home mom guilt. But today, I'm really excited to touch on managing your expectations and setting realistic goals as a work-at-home mom. Buckle up, because this is probably going to be quite the ride. Really quickly, my name is Laurel. I have been working from home since 2016, so at this point that's been about 7 years. I am pregnant with my 5th child in that time span, so I know all about cramming as much of life as you can into a really, really short period of time. And that includes motherhood and homemaking and being a wife and having kids and working from home and chaos, lots and lots of chaos. So I love getting to take a few minutes to just share some of my experiences with you as other fellow work-at-home moms, as we both are figuring out this journey together, figuring out ways to make it work for us, and finding ways to thrive in this season, no matter what you've got going on. As work-at-home moms and as women, I think managing your expectations and setting realistic goals is really important, because similar to what we talked about in the last episode where we were talking about perfectionism, or being a perfectionist, managing your expectations can also lend to that as well, because when you aren't managing your expectations and you're not setting realistic goals, you can fall into the traps of trying to make everything perfect and thinking that what you're doing should create a perfect life. I think it's really important to remember that 1 + 2 doesn't equal 3 in life. You're not always going to get what you want just because you do this set amount of rules or expectations or things that people say you should do. But there are things that you can do in your life that might set you on a path towards the direction you want to go. And I'm probably, kind of just stuck on this thinking, because there's all this stuff going out about trad wives right now. It's kind of a big hot topic at the time that I'm recording this, amongst my circles anyway. And, people talking about the trad wife. I don't want to get off in the ditches because I don't like labels. In fact, if I didn't even have to label myself as a work-at-home mom just for the algorithm, I probably wouldn't even do that. But for the sake of the algorithm and for the sake of us all being able to find each other, sometimes labels can be helpful, at least online. So that's why I use them, and I do this because we are walking a similar journey. I know there's other women out there who are doing things that are similar than me, and I'm really almost speaking to the person who is like 5 to 10 years behind me. I know that there's younger moms out there who maybe don't even realize that this is a possibility. They don't even realize that being a work-at-home mom is something that they could do so they can still keep their babies home and they could still help bring in money for their family or still explore creative avenues as a woman. And so that is kind of the driving force behind why I'm doing what I'm doing, because I care about you. So today, as we dive into managing expectations and setting realistic goals, I just want you to keep that in mind, that we're not, wearing this as an identity, but this is where we're at, this is where we are, and that's why we're managing our expectations and setting realistic goals, is because there's a lot on our plates. So when understanding the impact of setting unrealistic expectations, I think it's really helpful to remember that expectations come from a lot of different arenas and areas. It could come from social media, things that you see online, things that you see people talking about. It could come from the people in your life who are implying that you have it all together and you have it all figured out. It could come from different cultural influences. And so I want to make sure that we're all trying to put this back where it belongs and setting our expectations in a realistic way. Because if your expectations are coming from what you've seen online, that's probably not going to be very realistic. Or if your expectations of what things are supposed to look like is coming from maybe somebody in your life who is just a stay-at-home mom. I don't mean just a stay-at-home mom, but that is her primary focus, is that she is a stay-at-home mom. She pours all of her energy into her family and her home, and that's beautiful and that's wonderful. It's just not where I'm at in this season. And so I can't necessarily compare myself to somebody living that kind of lifestyle, because then I'm going to set really unrealistic expectations for myself, either for my home or my relationship with my children, or normally it's home related though. I feel like those are a lot of home related things, because technically my home comes down at the bottom of the totem pole. Like my kids are up high, my career is up a little high, not as high as my kids, and then my home is like, meh, whatever happens. You'll get fed, we'll have a clean house, mostly. It might not be organized, it'll be clean. It might not be organized. And so I think that setting realistic expectations is important because it depends on who you're comparing yourself to. The negative effects of setting unrealistic expectations is that you're really going to beat up on yourself. That's kind of where that perfectionist mentality comes in that we were talking about in the last episode. When you have unrealistic expectations, you can let yourself down really easily. And when you let yourself down, then you end up beating yourself up. So what I don't want is for you to set these unrealistic expectations and then beat yourself up about it. But I totally want you to be able to set realistic, worthy goals that you can rise to the challenge of. One of my favorite quotes comes from a movie. It's a kid's movie. It's called Mr. Megorium's Wonder Emporium. And in the movie, he says, "Your life is an occasion, rise to it." And I've always loved that quote. I mean, I've had it on my Facebook profile since high school because it has been one of my favorite quotes. I've always felt like my life is just this occasion. Let's do it. Let's try it. Let's get after it. Let's do something new. Let's embrace all of the crazy things that life can have for us. Now, that does lend to a little bit of overwhelm and really crazy expectations, but I think that there's a balance between setting unrealistic expectations that totally aren't going to help you get to your goal, but also keeping your expectations high enough and setting your goals high enough that you're able to then meet those goals and rise to the occasion and really allow yourself to shine in your own way. Okay, so a few strategies for setting realistic goals and expectations in your life are as follows. Now, we have covered some of these in other videos, so we'll make sure and link these in the descriptions below, so you can always go and check out some of the other videos that we have talked about this. But one of the things would be setting SMART goals. Now, in other videos, I kind of line out what a SMART goal is, but essentially it's a goal that is very calculated. You can track it, you can measure it, you can watch it grow, you can watch it change. And that way you know what you're getting into and what to expect out of a goal. Other things you can do are breaking down larger goals into more manageable bite-sized pieces. It's funny because I never really thought about that concept until I had done a blogging course with Lisa Bass over with the Farmhouse on Boone. And she talked about how when she figured out what her goal was for how many blogs she wanted to write a year so that she could reach a specific viewer goal, then she just broke it down. How many do I need to write per month? How many do I need to write per week? Okay, so I'm going to write these 3 blogs this week, and I'm going to write these 3 blogs next week, and that way I can essentially reach the goal. And I don't know why that seems so novel to me. I guess I just am the type of person who just sees everything big picture. I'm like, okay, let's tackle the whole big thing. We need to do a big thing. Let's do the big thing. But it was really novel for me because I was like, oh, you can break these down into smaller tasks and just get these done bit by bit instead of focusing on the whole big picture. And so that was a really novel concept for me. So maybe it is for you as well. And if that's the case, think about your big goal, think about the time frame you want to accomplish it in, and then think about a way to kind of bring it down a little bit into more manageable bite-sized pieces. Let's dive into a few tips for managing mom guilt, especially since that's kind of our focus for this season is mom guilt and all the things that go into that. So one of the things that we've kind of already touched on a little bit, but is acknowledging where mom guilt even comes from. I think it's really important to remember that there is guilt and there's a conscience. Guilt comes in to tell you that you're not good enough, that you're not doing enough, that you just are never going to measure up. It's kind of like a mean girl. If you think about like the Mean Girl movie, guilt is going to be like the mean girl that comes in and is trying to tell you that you don't measure up and that you're never going to be enough and you just don't do enough. Your conscience is going to come in like your really amazing best friend who loves you so desperately and is telling you, hey, you know what? I love you and I think you're an amazing woman and you are working so hard and you are there for your kids and you're fantastic. You could level up a little bit. Now, maybe they're not going to tell you that in that conversation, but I know I've got a friend that I have these kinds of conversations with all the time. And we're talking a lot about how we can up level in our lives, how we can do better at fixing food for our kids, or do better at meals that we're cooking, or do better at the ways we're cleaning and organizing our home. There's lots of ways that you can do better. And so a really good friend is going to come in and be like, hey, you already know that I think you're amazing. You already know that I think that you're doing a great job. You are kicking it as a mom. You're great. You could do a little better. You could up level. You could totally up level in this area of your life, whether it's organizing or decluttering. I pick those because those are where I need to up level a lot. So guilt is going to be the mean girl that is never saying anything nice to you and is always really hateful. Your conscience is going to be more like your best friend who loves you desperately and only wants to see you improve and thrive as you go. Those are kind of the things to remember as you're kind of wading through mom guilt. I also think sometimes we get way too caught up sitting and thinking about this kind of stuff. We would be so much better off putting action to it and just going. Sometimes I know that this culture really likes to sit and just bask in their feelings. And I don't think there's anything wrong so much as maybe analyzing where something's coming from. But at the same time, I think that we sit and we think way too much. Sometimes you just need to get your hands dirty and get in and start doing stuff. I feel like I find a lot of clarity when I just get in and I do something. I get up, I move, I go clean the kitchen. Or I've decided that I really want to make bread today. So I'm going to just get my hands in the dough and I'm going to make my bread. And then we're going to see what we feel like after that, because chances are I'm going to feel a whole lot better when I get in and get my hands dirty and try something different. So acknowledging where the guilt is coming from, but then finding a way to deal with it makes a huge difference in your walk as a work-at-home mom, as a wife, as a woman who's always trying to excel. Acknowledge where the guilt's coming from, and sometimes you might need to pull back. Other times you might need to just acknowledge that that's where it's coming from and that that's something that you're not going to give any more power. Social media can be a place where a lot of guilt comes out of, and I find it really helpful to then recognize in myself, that's me. I'm being the person that's causing the problem. You know, like the Taylor Swift song, hi, it's me. I'm the problem. It's me. Hi. Yeah, it's me. Because sometimes I think I get so carried away with watching other people on social media that I get jealous about them or that I start being really petty. And the fact is, they're probably not doing it to try to make anyone jealous. There are a lot of people out there, just like you and me, who are just trying to do what they feel like they've been called to do, spread a message, use a platform that they have. They're just doing what they're called to do, and they're not trying to make anybody feel jealous or unworthy or less than. That's me. I'm the one that's taking their wonderful message and spinning it and making it something ick. So if you're running into that, it's okay to block those people, but I definitely don't like just getting in a scene and in a situation where I'm constantly blocking things just because I feel like it's going to make me uncomfortable. Sometimes I think it's actually helpful to put yourself in a position where you have to say, you know what? I'm the one that's being jealous right now. And she is an amazing woman and she's doing a really great job managing her children, managing her home, from what I can tell. Obviously, it's social media. Maybe she's not. Maybe she's a terrible mom. I don't know. But we're going to just give it the benefit of the doubt and assume that she's probably doing a really good job. She's just like me, trying to feed her kids and help provide for her family and find purpose in her life. So I'm the one that's being the problem. I need to work this out. And I'm not going to work it out by blocking people and not working through those emotions and putting them where they belong. Which, jealousy, that we don't have time for that. That can go. So we're going to repent of that. We're going to, as a Christian, I'm going to repent of those things. I'm going to seek forgiveness for areas where I'm being silly. And we're going to move on. And finally, one of the last things that I kind of want to dig into really quick before I let you go is just managing your expectations, is accepting good enough and letting go of perfection. I think it can be so easy for us to just grasp onto this idea that we have to have everything perfect when it can be good enough. It doesn't have to be perfect. We're the ones placing that perfect expectation in the situation, and it doesn't have to be perfect. You have to give it your best. You have to give it your best. But that doesn't mean perfect, because perfect is unachievable. So when you're setting your expectations and your realistic goals, it's okay to let go of perfection and say, you know what? I'm going to do it. Doing it good is better than not doing it perfect. And that's been something that I've really been kind of walking through over the last 5 to 10 years, especially being like a firstborn. Perfectionist tendencies are something that I've had to deal with in my life, and recognizing that I'd rather just do it and do it well and do it good enough than not do it at all and then get to the end of my life and feel a bunch of regret because I didn't try something. So I hope that as a work-at-home mom, but more importantly as a mom and a woman and a wife and all of the different hats that you wear, that you are able to embrace the fact that you can do a good job. It doesn't have to be perfect, and that does not take away from your value. All right. I think we have about said as much as we need to say on this topic. We still have a few more episodes where we're going to be dealing with work-at-home mom guilt, so I'm sure we're going to be diving into all the nitty-gritty details. But like I said, we also have some other episodes from other seasons where we have dived into some really detailed ways to set expectations and realistic goals and how to kind of hash that out in your own life. So I really hope you go check those out. I have so enjoyed our time here today. I hope that we were able to keep it brief enough that you were able to kind of listen while you're maybe cleaning the house or doing some dishes really quick or sending out a couple emails that didn't require a whole lot of thought process. And I look forward to joining you again in our next episode as we continue working through all of this mom guilt stuff. See ya.